Hello, hope you guys are doing well. As always, I'm going to check over in the Facebook group, make sure that we are live because I am streaming to you via StreamYard. If you are here, go ahead and say hello. Remember, you have to grant StreamYard permission in order for me to see your name. Otherwise, it just says like Facebook watcher, and I won't actually know who I'm talking to. Now, we usually go live on Wednesdays at 1, so this is a different day because I am actually headed off to Disney with my family this week, so I wanted to get in your live training before we left. So that's why we are at a different time and day. And let me head over to the group. We are streaming this over in the Profit Factor Facebook group. If you can hear me and you're here, go ahead and say hello. We've also got this streaming on YouTube and onto the Chic CFO business page. I am not actually seeing this come up on the Profit Factor Facebook page. I'm going to go ahead and refresh. And let's see if we can see that. And if you guys are here, looks like we have a couple of people joining us live. Go ahead and say hello. Let me know if you can hear me. And let me go ahead and refresh the screen and see if I can have this coming through on here. Actually, do not see it live on the Facebook group, which is strange. If you guys are tuned in, if you could let me know. It does look like it says, yeah, there we go. All right. So I think it just took a little bit longer. So far it looks like we have a couple people on here. Like I said, it is a different day. Hey, Lizzie, how are you? Lizzie is on here. That's awesome. Hopefully we will get some other people joining us live. But as always, guys, I stream this onto my YouTube channel. Yes, I have a YouTube channel. Nobody watches it, but it is there. So I do stream it there because then it's just really easy for me to grab that link and throw it back into the group so you guys can always watch the replay. So if you are watching the replay, just drop it in the comments and let me know that you are catching the replay. All right, so I am super excited for today's training because this is honestly a question that I get asked a lot. In the accounting community, there are quite a lot of titles being thrown around, right? We've got bookkeeper, CPA, accountant, EA, CFO, right? All the things. And for many of you guys, you're thinking, well, what are all these titles? What does it mean? What do they do? And which one is the right fit for me? And that's what I'm really excited to talk about today, because if you can really understand the differences between these professionals, you're going to be able to make an educated and informed decision as to what is going to be best for you and your business so that you can make sure that you hire someone who can really meet your needs. And I think it's also just going to help you guys have that great professional relationship with whoever you hire, because you're going to very much be on the same page with what you guys, are looking for. Now, if you are new here, my name is Danae Wolf. I am a financial clarity coach and a profit strategist. My company, the Chic CFO, does done-for-you financial services in our virtual CFO services. So there's one of those names, right? CFO. So we'll be covering all of that today. But I really believe that if you increase your profits, you're going to decrease your stress. And I really believe that the best way to increase your profits is to educate yourself, to have financial literacy, financial clarity. I believe changes lives. And that's what I try to play a very small part on in this Facebook community and my YouTube channel, my podcast, and so on. So let's dive into today's topic. So as I said, we're going to be talking about the differences between these various professionals. So we're talking about a bookkeeper, a CFO, a CPA, and EA, right? So let's start with the bookkeeper. A bookkeeper, the best way to really think about it is they're sort of like a professional organizer for your bank account. So I think in this day and age, we're probably all really familiar with these home organizers, right? They've got these beautiful curated Instagram pages, right? I know if you guys are like me, I am constantly on there looking at all of these beautiful pantries and the closet organization. I just geek out on that stuff. And you can really think about a bookkeeper as the professional organizer of your bank account. That is what your bookkeeper does. He or she logs into your bank account and organizes all of those transactions. Now, typically, a professional bookkeeper is going to use a software such as QuickBooks Online. That is definitely my favorite software, hands down. But I want to be really clear that you can do bookkeeping, organize your financials in something as simple as a spreadsheet, right? And I do have a spreadsheet that many of you guys have used. It does serve the same purpose, but typically when you're outsourcing this and you're hiring a professional, that bookkeeper is going to be using a software such as QuickBooks Online. So essentially what the bookkeeper does is log in there, look at all of the data, look at every single transaction, and then she organizes it, which is essentially categorizing it. So as an example, let's say there was a purchase to Staples. You bought computer ink, right? You bought ink for the printer. He or she would categorize that as an office expense. So she's organized that financial data by labeling it as an office expense. So now when you pull your financial reports, you're going to see an expense of office expense, right? Because that's how the bookkeeper has organized it. So when you are looking at your financial reports, right, they are only as good as the data entry, right? Which is essentially what bookkeeping is. Bookkeeping is data entry. They are the professional organizers of your bank account. They are going in and making sure that if it's office expenses, it's labeled as office expenses. If it's a marketing expense, it's labeled as a marketing expense. Now, what I want you guys to know when you hire a bookkeeper, which I will tell you, I very much think that once you get to a certain point in sales, at least about 350,000 a year, I do feel pretty strongly that you should be outsourcing a bookkeeper because it's one less thing that you're going to have to do in your business. But it's also one of those things that you don't want to have any error, right? You want to make sure that this financial data is accurate. Otherwise, the reports wouldn't be accurate. And if your financial reports aren't accurate, your taxes aren't going to be accurate. And you could very well end up paying more in taxes than necessary if your bookkeeping wasn't accurate. So it really is a crucial part of your company. Bookkeeping is a crucial part. It's not a luxury, right? It is a necessity. If you choose to do it yourself, great. But if you choose to outsource it, I want you to understand that your bookkeeper is not a mind reader, right? So you want to make sure that you have very good lines of communication with he or she so that you are able to answer their questions, because I network with a ton of bookkeepers. I've got several bookkeepers on my team. And one of their biggest source of pain points is when they cannot get a response back from the client. So if you guys are going to be outsourcing to a bookkeeper, I just want you to remember they are the professional organizer of your bank account. They are not a mind reader. So when they ask questions, you always just want to respond because it all starts with them. Your financial reports all start at bookkeeping. That is literally the foundation of your financial system is the bookkeeping. It is legitimately step one. So it's extremely important. And if you do choose to outsource it, just make sure that you've got that great line of communication with them and you answer their questions promptly, because if they don't know what a certain transaction is for, it's really difficult for them to organize it. They're not going to know how to categorize it. And we need them to categorize it correctly so that your financial reports will be correct. So that's going to be your bookkeeper. They are essentially doing all of the data entry in order to organize all of your financial transactions. Now let's move on to a CFO. A CFO takes the data that the bookkeeper compiled, and the CFO is the strategist. Okay. They are the profit strategist. So they review the bookkeeping reports and they're able to help you make smart strategic decisions that are really going to be able to scale your company to the next level. So a lot of times people will have a bookkeeper, right? A lot of entrepreneurs have a bookkeeper because let's face it, that data entry is extremely tedious and not the funnest thing to do. So they've got a bookkeeper, but you really sort of look at the job of your bookkeeper is to just maintain your books so that you can file a tax return. Because a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of thinking, I only need financial reports when it's time to file my taxes. But if you guys have been following me for a while, you know this is actually the best way to make decisions in your business. Numbers don't lie. So I don't want you to have these bookkeeping reports simply to be IRS compliant. I want you to actually do something with that data. The bookkeeper has taken the time to organize it. Now we've got to actually utilize it. And that is where a CFO comes into play. So I'm a virtual CFO, as many of you know. So what happens in my company is we've got bookkeepers who handle all of the data entry for our clients. Then me and my team review those bookkeeping reports and we provide analysis to our clients so that we can strategize on any operational improvements that need to be made so that we can increase their profits. So a CFO, yes, number one, wants to make sure you're tax compliant and that we've got those bookkeeping reports to appease Uncle Sam. But we take it a step further by making sure that those bookkeeping reports also benefit you. So bookkeeper, professional organizer for your financial transactions. They're going to organize your bank account. And then the CFO is your profit strategist. The next thing we have is a CPA. I'm sure you guys have all heard this term, and I'm sure most of you probably have a CPA, okay? There's probably the majority of you guys have bookkeepers. Maybe a handful of you are working with a CFO, such as myself, but all of you, most of you, I would say, in the high 90 percentile, probably have a CPA, because typically your certified public accountant, your CPA, they are going to file your taxes. Now, here is what I want you guys to understand about a CPA. So a CPA is someone who, number one, studied accounting in school. All right. So math was their jam. They majored in they majored in accounting. And then after they graduated, they took an exam so that they could be certified as a certified public accountant. So they've got this, this credential of being a CPA. And what they do with it is file tax returns. So when you're dealing with a CPA, they are looking at your business through one very specific lens: file the tax return. That is their number one end goal. They want to file your tax return, which means they want to get the reports from your bookkeeper and then plug it into their tax preparer software so that it can spit out whether you owe taxes or you're getting a refund. That is their main goal. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs will come to me and they're really frustrated because their CPA is not providing them with any strategy, right? They're not really consulting with them or coaching with them. And I a lot of times have to say, listen, that is not what they do, right? A CPA is there to file your tax return. They're going to help you strategize when it comes to taxes, but they're not going to sit down and look at any operational improvements that could happen, right? They're a tax strategist, not a profit strategist, such as a CFO. And I want you guys to understand that they are two very different skill sets. I can sit down with you, review your P&L, and tell you exactly what operational improvements you need to make in order to make more money. That is what I do as a CFO. However, I cannot sit down with you and advise you the best way to file your taxes. I know a little bit here and there, but that's not my zone of genius. So the same way I wouldn't expect to sit down with a client and have to tax strategize, it's the same thing for a CPA, right? We always want to utilize someone for their strengths. So when you're dealing with your CPA, remember, this individual has one goal. They want to make sure to file an accurate tax return for you. All right, so let's recap here. It all starts with our bookkeeper. They are the professional organizer of your bank account. From there, we take that data and information and head it over to a CFO, such as myself, who is going to strategize with you. This is where you guys get the good stuff. This is where you learn what operational improvements need to take place within your company so that you can make more money. Then at the end of the year, we want your CPA to come in, file your tax return accurately and timely, and then provide you with a tax strategy so that we can make sure that you are only paying the exact taxes you owe and not a penny more. Now, the next type of accounting professional you might have heard of is an EA. An EA is an enrolled agent. That's what it stands for. And what they have done is gotten certified through the IRS in order to prepare and file taxes. Now, I just talked about CPAs, right? That's a certified public accountant. That is someone who has gone to school, studied accounting, and taken an exam in order to become a certified public accountant. When it comes to an EA, they get certified in order to be an enrolled agent. But this individual did not have to take any accounting classes in school. So they might have come from a completely different background. They did not have to do any type of schooling in undergrad in order to get this certification, this enrolled agent certification. But this is an individual who is really hyper focused on a tax return. So again, this is not someone that we want to come to with our operational questions, right? This is not a profit strategist. This is someone who is able to file our tax return. Now, what I will say is a lot of times you will be able to find an EA is going to charge, and I'm going to make a blanket statement here, so I'm sure you'll find scenarios in which this is not the case, but typically an EA will charge a bit less to file your tax return than what you're going to get charged from a CPA. Remember, the CPA is the most educated of the bunch simply because they did in fact study accounting in school. I tell you guys all the time, as a CFO, I did not learn this stuff in school. Okay. I learned in the trenches, taking grenades, because I am an entrepreneur just like all of you. And I was about to get evicted from my restaurant. And I had to learn really quick how to understand financial data, use that information in order to make operational improvements. And that's how I was able to save my company. So when it comes to an EA, it's possible that they studied accounting in school, But I want you to have that expectation to understand they could have been a communications major, they could have been a sociology major, but they decided that they have a passion for taxes and they've gone ahead and got this certification to be an enrolled agent with the IRS. And typically, they are going to come in a little bit less in their pricing for filing a tax return. Now, the other type of accounting professional that you could encounter is what's called a certified tax preparer. This is typically a certification they would have received from the state. An enrolled agent receives a certification from the IRS, but a certified tax preparer typically got some type of a certification from within the state in which they live. So again, these are individuals, whether it's an EA or a certified tax preparer, they are choosing to be hyper-focused on tax returns. And typically, when you work with them, you are going to get a little bit of a less rate for filing your tax return than you would get with a CPA. But with a CPA, you do get the added bonus of the years of school. Now, you might be someone who values that or someone who's indifferent to it, but I just want you guys to have the facts of all of the options we've listed here. The only one that we will always know beyond a shadow of a doubt who actually studied this stuff in a classroom is a CPA. Having said that, I'll just throw in my 2 cents here. I do believe there is a lot to be said about real life experience. So typically, I find you learn more in the trenches taking grenades than you do sitting in a classroom. But there's many of you that really value that somebody loved accounting that much and wanted to sit in a classroom, wanted to study for that exam. From what I hear, the CPA exam is quite hard. So they've definitely put a lot of time and effort into honing their craft. And that's why you're typically going to find the highest rates when it comes to a CPA. So again, we've got our bookkeepers, right? And I'll go ahead. If you guys are listening on the podcast, I just have a little short description on the bottom of the screen here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that back up onto the screen. We've got number 1, our bookkeeper, the professional organizer of your bank account. He or she is going to organize all of your financial data and put them into beautiful financial reports, typically known as the profit and loss statement. Then a chief financial officer, right? CFO. I am a virtual CFO. This is where we come into play. We are a profit strategist. We review the reports that your bookkeeper has compiled, and we help you make operational improvements in order to increase your profits. Then we've got our certified public accountant. This is an individual who has studied this in school, who has passed an exam. They've obtained a certificate, and they are going to be hyper-focused on tax strategy and filing your tax return. This is not an individual who's going to sit down and strategize any operational improvements in your business. And then we've got the enrolled agent who received their certification from the IRS. They're hyper-focused on taxes and tax strategy. They are not going to be focused on profit strategy. And then we come, last but not least, our certified tax preparer, who typically receives this certification from a state jurisdiction. I hope that this training has really helped you today. I get asked it all the time, right? Do I need a bookkeeper? Do I need a CFO? Well, here's what you guys need to know. You all need bookkeeping, all right? So let me be clear. Every business needs bookkeeping, right? Which means you need organized financial data. Whether or not you choose to outsource it and hire a bookkeeper is up to you. I do typically recommend you strongly consider it, right? I really recommend you consider it. For us, we have some clients who only utilize us for our profit strategy, but I would say about 90% of our clients, they're also utilizing our bookkeeping services because it's typically something that I think even when, I forget the exact statistics, but even when they take like a poll of entrepreneurs and they interview, like say 1,000 entrepreneurs, an overwhelming majority of entrepreneurs despise doing bookkeeping. So everybody needs bookkeeping. That doesn't mean you necessarily need a bookkeeper. If you are able to take care of it yourself, great, but it is stealing your joy and it doesn't make you happy to do. Go ahead and outsource it. If you have any questions and want to know more about my services, send me a DM. I'd love to chat with you and tell you more about our monthly done for you services. So if you choose to outsource it, you can hire a bookkeeper. But if you are really in a situation where you're just looking for guidance and support and you want to know, how can I increase my profits? If that is what you are looking for, if that is your biggest challenge, you, my friend, need a CFO. I happen to be one, shameless plug, but if not me, there's plenty of us out there. Partner up with a CFO. Our job is to help you increase your profits, okay? We are the profit strategist. So if that's what you're looking for in your business, please seek out a CFO. If you just want to deal with your taxes, get your tax returned, you can hire a CPA, a EA, or a certified tax preparer. But remember, they are not going to be doing the bookkeeping, right? Some of them will offer it. I typically find it to be a bit overpriced because remember, it's not in their wheelhouse. It's not what they do. You guys ever hear when people are like, why would you go, to say a Chinese restaurant and order a pizza, right? It's the same thing. Let's order what they specialize in. So if you need bookkeeping, let's go to a company that specializes in that. If you need profit strategy, let's talk to a CFO. And if you want your taxes done, interview a CPA, an EA, or a certified tax preparer and decide which person is going to be a best fit for you. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you guys will take me up on my offer to send me any questions. I am happy to help. Whether you'd like to work with my firm or not, I am always here to answer your questions. Shoot me a message, and I usually try to respond back as quickly as possible. I usually will do a voice memo because it's much easier for me to just talk. If you guys follow me, you know I'm quite the talker, and it's easier for me to do that than it is to type. So I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you next week in our next training. Bye now.